Bella Evans was the kind of girl who color-coded her highlighters and had a 5-year plan pinned to her dorm room wall. She was a junior at Crestwood University, majoring in computer science, and her idea of a wild Friday night was debugging code while sipping chamomile tea. She was, in every sense of the word, a good girl. Lucas Kane, on the other hand, was the campus bad boy. He was the guy who rolled into class late, wearing a leather jacket and a smirk that could melt even the most disciplined professor's resolve. He was a hacker, brilliant, but reckless, and his reputation for trouble was legendary. When their professor paired them up for a semester-long project, Bella groaned audibly. "Great," she muttered under her breath. "Just what I need, a partner who probably thinks Python is a snake." Lucas slid into the seat next to her, his cologne, a mix of leather and something spicy, making her head spin. "Relax, Evans," he said, his voice low and teasing. "I promise not to corrupt you too much." Bella rolled her eyes, but she couldn't help the flutter in her chest. Damn him. At first, their partnership was a disaster. Lucas was always late, if he showed up at all, and his idea of contributing was cracking jokes while Bella did all the work. But then, one night, everything changed. They were working late in the computer lab, the glow of the monitors casting a soft light on their faces. Bella was frustrated, her fingers flying over the keyboard as she tried to fix a bug in their code. Lucas leaned over her shoulder, his breath warm against her ear. "You're overcomplicating it," he said, his fingers brushing hers as he took control of the keyboard. In a few quick strokes, he fixed the problem. Bella stared at the screen, her mouth hanging open. "How did you do that?" she asked, turning to look at him. He smirked. "Magic." From that moment on, things shifted. Lucas started showing up on time, and Bella found herself looking forward to their sessions. They spent hours together, laughing and arguing, their chemistry undeniable. One night, after a particularly intense coding session, Lucas walked her back to her dorm. "Thanks for not giving up on me," he said, his voice uncharacteristically soft. Bella smiled. "You're not as bad as I thought." He grinned. "Careful, Evans." That almost sounded like a compliment. Their relationship evolved from there. Lucas started showing up at her dorm with coffee, Bella found herself staying up late to text him. They were an unlikely pair, the good girl and the bad boy, but somehow, it worked. One night, after a particularly grueling exam, Lucas took her to his favorite spot on campus, a hidden rooftop with a view of the city skyline. They sat side by side, their shoulders touching, as the stars twinkled above them. "You know," Lucas said, his voice low, "you're not like anyone I've ever met." Bella turned to look at him, her heart pounding. "Is that a good thing?" He smiled, his eyes dark and intense. "It's a very good thing." And then he kissed her. It was soft at first, tentative, but it quickly deepened, sending sparks through her entire body. Bella had never felt anything like it, like she was on fire, like the world had stopped spinning. When they finally pulled apart, she was breathless. "Wow," she whispered. Lucas grinned. "Yeah. Wow." For a while, everything was perfect. Lucas was sweet and attentive, and Bella felt like she was living in a dream. But then, she started noticing little things, the way he would disappear for hours without explanation, the way he always seemed to be looking over his shoulder. One night, she confronted him. "Lucas, what's going on? You've been acting weird." He hesitated, his jaw tightening. "It's nothing, Belle. Just, some stuff I'm dealing with." Bella crossed her arms. "You can talk to me, you know." He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "It's complicated. Try me." For a moment, she thought he might open up. But then his phone buzzed, and he glanced at the screen, his expression darkening. "I have to go," he said, standing up. Bella grabbed his arm. "Lucas, wait." But he was already gone. The next day, Bella's world came crashing down. She was in the computer lab, working on their project, when she got an email from the university. Her heart sank as she read the words, "Academic integrity violation, plagiarism." She stared at the screen, her mind racing. How could this be happening? She had worked so hard, been so careful. And then it hit her, Lucas. He had access to her files. He could have planted the evidence. She stormed out of the lab, her heart pounding. She found him at their usual spot on the rooftop, smoking a cigarette. He turned when he heard her footsteps, his expression unreadable. "Did you do this?" she demanded, shoving her phone in his face. Lucas glanced at the screen, his jaw tightening. "Bella. Did you?" she shouted, tears streaming down her face. He looked away, his voice cold. "Yes." Bella felt like she'd been punched in the gut. "Why?" He didn't answer, just stared at the ground. Bella shook her head, her heart breaking. "I trusted you," she whispered. "I loved you." Lucas flinched, but he didn't say anything. Bella turned and ran, her sobs echoing in the empty hallway. The next few weeks were a blur. Bella was cleared of the plagiarism charges, thanks to some quick thinking and a lot of evidence, but the damage was done. She avoided Lucas like the plague, throwing herself into her work to distract herself from the pain. But then, one night, she got a call from an unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. "Bella," a voice said, and her heart stopped. It was Lucas. "What do you want?" she asked, her voice trembling. "I need to see you," he said. "It's important." Bella hesitated. She knew she should say no, should hang up and never look back. But something in his voice made her agree. They met at the rooftop, the place where it had all begun. Lucas looked terrible, his eyes bloodshot, his face pale. He didn't say anything at first, just handed her a USB drive. "What's this?" she asked. "Proof," he said. "Proof that I didn't do it." Bella frowned. "What are you talking about?" Lucas took a deep breath. "I didn't frame you, Bella. Someone else did. Someone who's been after me for a long time." Bella stared at him, her mind racing. "Who?" He hesitated, then said, "My ex. She's dangerous. And she's been trying to get to me through you." Bella felt a chill run down her spine. "Why didn't you tell me?" Lucas looked away. "Because I knew she'd hurt you if she thought you meant anything to me. So I pushed you away. I made you hate me." Bella's heart ached. "Lucas." He shook his head. "I'm sorry, Bella. I never wanted to hurt you. But I couldn't let her hurt you either." Bella plugged the USB drive into her laptop, her hands shaking. The files were damning, emails, photos, evidence of a plot to ruin her life. Lucas's ex, a woman named Vanessa, had been behind it all. Bella looked up at Lucas, tears in her eyes. "Why didn't you just tell me?" He sighed. "Because I knew you'd try to help. And I couldn't risk it. I couldn't risk you." Bella felt a lump in her throat. "Lucas." He reached out, brushing a tear from her cheek. "I'm sorry, Belle. For everything." Bella wanted to be angry, to push him away. But she couldn't. She loved him, despite everything. "What happens now?" she asked. Lucas shook his head. "I don't know. But I'll do whatever it takes to keep you safe." For a while, things seemed like they might work out. Lucas and Bella rekindled their relationship, and Vanessa's threats seemed to fade away. But then, one night, everything changed. Bella was walking home from the library when she heard footsteps behind her. She turned, her heart pounding, but it was too late. Vanessa was there, a knife in her hand. "You should have stayed away from him," Vanessa hissed. Bella backed away, her mind racing. But before Vanessa could strike, Lucas appeared out of nowhere, tackling her to the ground. The two of them struggled, and Bella watched in horror as Vanessa's knife found its mark. Lucas fell to the ground, blood staining his shirt. Bella screamed, rushing to his side. "Lucas," she cried, pressing her hands to the wound. He smiled weakly, his hand reaching up to touch her face. "It's okay, Belle. You're safe." "No," she sobbed. "Don't leave me." But it was too late. Lucas's eyes fluttered closed, and he was gone. Bella was never the same after that night. She graduated at the top of her class, but her heart was broken. She kept the USB drive Lucas had given her, a reminder of the boy who had loved her enough to break her heart to save her. Years later, she visited his grave, a single rose in her hand. She knelt down, her fingers tracing the letters on the headstone. "I miss you," she whispered. "Every day." And as she stood there, the wind whispered through the trees, carrying with it the memory of a boy who had loved her enough to let her go.